The reality is you can do a hell of a lot of work under local anesthesia beautifully. And there is, it is an art. You have to be good at it. It is something that you have to develop over time. First few cases I did were really hard, and I learned over the years how to be good at it.
Hello, and welcome to Beauty in the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is Dr. Joubin Gabbay. He's a board-certified plastic surgeon in private practice in Beverly Hills for the past 20 years. Now, raised in Beverly Hills, that's unusual, Dr. Gabbay attended the Medical College of Virginia in Richmond, Virginia, then returned to Los Angeles for his general surgery training at the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, and completed extensive research in fat-derived stem cells in plastic surgery, where he published over 30 articles and presentations around the world. Now, he did his residency at UCLA and fellowship in specialty plastic reconstructive surgery at Rancho Los Amigos National Rehab Center in Downey, California, where he focused on patients with spinal cord injuries as well as complex wounds requiring surgical reconstruction. Dr. Gabbay, thank you for joining me on Beauty in the Biz.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this.
Oh, fantastic. Now, it sounds like you were kind of heading down the academia road, and then you ended up in private practice in Beverly Hills, which can't be any more competitive. So what was that journey? How did you get from there to there?
Well, it's funny because I was almost laughed at when I had my interview at UCLA when I explained to them I wanted a hybrid model of, working in a big academic center while still having a private practice. And the perspective I had was from my training at Cedars-Sinai, which especially at the time was a very large, very private hospital that was doing really not even tertiary, but quaternary care in everything. So I thought, hell, I could do that in plastic surgery as well. And to a large extent, it happened in that, right now I'm the clinical chief of plastic surgery at Cedars, and I do, I take call, I do some good reconstructive stuff, but at the core, my practice is a cosmetic private practice sort of practice. But I still dabble, and it's really nice to have that connection while still primarily being a private practice aesthetic plastic surgeon.
But do you find that's hard to balance? I just find the insurance can be distracting. It's so good for your soul, but not for your pocketbook or maybe your work-life balance because now you're on call. It's just, do you find that difficult to balance?
It is. It's especially hard for my office who has to deal with trying to bill insurance and stuff like that. But it is a really small part of the practice ultimately. So it is something, like you say, it's great for my soul. I take call. I work with little things here and there. And honestly, a lot of the time I don't bother billing for some of these insurance cases because it's not worth it. It's not worth the headache of chasing them. And it's something that I feel is a contribution to my community more than it is a contribution to my bank account.
Right? Actually, that's just plain good karma. So
Yeah,
so that's fantastic.
I like,
And I want to talk about, you mentioned, you did a lot of research on stem cells, and every time I go to a meeting, it's always in the hot topics,
right.
stem cell for plastic surgery.
Sure.
Can you just give us a little synopsis of what's new? It's so controversial. Is it good? Is it bad? What do you know about it?
It's so controversial because I'll tell you at its core, I worked in the lab that discovered fat-derived stem cells. And forever, everyone felt, okay, this is it. It's going to take over. It's going to take over. And it still hasn't taken over. Even to the point that I think it's controversial. What are the cells that are stem cells? How can you use them? Where are they beneficial? I do think we've gotten better at working with the sort of core components of the stem cells, and we're getting there. But the thing that I was really interested in was a big tissue engineering program where you can create things with stem cells that will augment, will contribute to the body. We're still really far away, but I do think, every year we're getting closer at just being handy with some of these components. So a very long-winded answer of I don't know, because no one does.
Uh, many years ago, I would say even 15 years ago, I was approach to do the marketing for a stem cell at a practice, and he was very into stem cells, but it was down in Florida, of course, and they couldn't get it approved. I said, I can't help you until this is more legalized. I'm not clear what we're doing. And I'm not doing anything sketchy. But and that was 15 years ago, and I don't even think the answers changed much. It's still sketchy, it seems like. Nobody knows how to market it.
Absolutely. No. And you said it, the regulatory issues are massive. They're
Mhm.
massive to the point that, I mean, a few years ago, the FDA was still considering calling fat transfer, the changing the category into a device and a medication, which would have just made even more regulatory nightmare. I was working actually in Dubai last year in a clinic that is really pushing stem cell therapies. And it kind of underscores what's happening in the world right now, that I think a lot of the advancements and movements made forward are outside of the United States. And, it's good because at least someone is doing it, but it also is a little concerning to me because once you start to get to know how some people outside of the country are doing things, they don't have that same regulatory oversight that we do in the US. So that's a blessing and a curse. And, eventually, hopefully, we'll get somewhere that we can do things in a more useful way over here.
Well, from what you have researched, is it something that can expedite healing in the body?
I feel that it can, but I feel like it's not just as easy as an on off switch. But yeah, I do.
Okay. There because every year some celebrity has a story about it. They went to Panama. There, the one I heard recently was Tony Robbins. He's a huge motivational speaker,
Yeah.
and he's a giant, and he's always clapping. I've been to his seminars, like when I was younger. They're very rah rah. Well, after all
Right.
that clapping, he blew out his arms, like his elbows and all that. And sure enough, he went to Panama and had stem cell whatever.
Right.
And he's such a big proponent. And then you think, oh my God, like, and then I think, oh, well, if it's good enough for him, like, oh my God, I mean, this is amazing. Um,
Right.
okay, apparently it's still to be determined.
Well, you bring up something, especially with Tony Robbins, that I think is fascinating. It's funny, it's something a friend sent me the other day, and I've been looking at. So, Tony Robbins now is pairing up with Sam Nazarian to do wellness centers throughout the world. And Sam and I went to high school together, actually. He's a big nightlife guy. And this may be where all of that thought is going. So these wellness centers are trying to use some evidence-based approaches to overall longevity, health, and wellness to really take people to the next level. Literally, this is looking like the next nightlife in our world. And I think that's an exciting direction where some of the insight from stem cells and really more of the modern approaches to medicine are going. And I'll tell you, it's a train that I'm very excited to hop on. And we're trying to see how the hell can we get involved in this because
Right,
longevity is it.
right. But California and its regulatory system is absurd. Are they going to try to open these wellness centers in California?
I believe they are. And I'm sure they're going to keep it nice and tepid. Like maybe you get a hyperbaric center here, good massages. I don't think, I'm curious to see, are they going to do what types of infusions, what types of treatments, and how far are they going to push the envelope? I think to really get into the most cutting edge longevity approaches, honestly, they're going to have to do it outside of the United States.
Is Dubai showing good results after you? Do you go there quite often, or just
It's funny. That's a whole nother interesting conversation. I went there a couple of times. I felt that in order for me to build a really robust practice in Dubai, I'd have to go 6, 7, 8 times to build that clientele because Dubai has a very broad audience. It's no longer that world, and I think you've spoken about this in the past. It's not that world where, as an American surgeon, you go in there and you're bringing in $500,000 cases and things like that. You're literally fighting against people who are competing with Turkey, with the Dominican
Uh,
Republic, and things like that. So, even as someone coming from Beverly Hills and having a background behind them, it is a tough market, and I just felt that it would take too much work to go in. Now we're still exploring things every now and then. And again, going back to this longevity question, I think that becomes an interesting opportunity for American physicians. Now, do they have great results? No, they don't. I don't think anyone has conclusively shown massive potential in, a very clear clinical trial. But that's partially because there's a lot of shadiness in that world. And also, I think just the trials that would be needed to show a great result are insane. That they're hard and they're super expensive. So to be determined. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I hope they hurry up because
Yeah,
we're all getting a little older here. The clock is
exactly.
ticking.
We need it.
Yeah. So chop chop, everybody.
That's it.
I realized you when we got on, you had a different background. So you just told me you have a brand new office, and let's talk about it. How did that happen?
Well, I've been very lucky to. I feel like Beverly Hills is a very interesting market.
Yes.
Office space is a premium here, and it's a tough market to be in. I've been lucky to have some very good friends over the years who I've subletted from in really big, really beautiful offices. So
That building was gorgeous that you were in.
yeah,
That's iconic
thank you.
building. Yeah.
It was, and they were great. At the beginning, I shared with Ash Gavami, now more recently with Jay Calvert,
Oh,
and they were amazing. And I was lucky to be allowed to be lazy in getting my own thing, but finally, it just needed to happen. And because I'm crazy, I didn't want to compromise and settle for something that was just okay. So I kept looking and looking and looking. Um, Finally I found the office that I'm currently in, and I'll tell you, from the day, what's funny, we saw photos in our memories. From the day I saw it to the day I moved in, it was to the day 2 years,
oh, wow.
with the negotiations on the lease and then the build out and everything. It took a while, and this is without even building an OR. I didn't want an OR. It was just building out an office. It's a bigger office. It's 3,800 square feet, and I got really into the design process and the planning and everything like that. And it was interesting because, look, my dad's an architect. I have a big architectural background, so of course I wanted something that was really special, but also I really kind of pulled together on the years of being in private practice and working in different offices to pick and choose what were the right things that I needed to build not only a great office, but for me, the whole thing is the experience for my patient. And this became something that is an experience, I think, from the second someone not only walks in the door, but before, when they contact us, when they learn about us, to when they come in, reception area, the entry into the consultation suite, and then into the closing room. It's a whole thing that I was able to envision every single step and design the way I wanted. So it's been great.
Well, it was helpful that your father was an architect, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very handy.
Yeah.
But what took so long? And were there any mistakes made or any advice for others? Because did you have permit issues?
Permitting is tough. Certainly in the post-COVID era in LA and even in Beverly Hills, permitting is a really big challenge. So that was a really tough process, and that definitely took a lot of time. Also, it was honestly the process of how we worked with our contractors, how we worked with the building. It was a blessing and a curse for me, and this is a very unique thing that I have a lot of friends in the industry. So we're friendly with the people in the building, we're friendly with our contractors. And, they always say you can get three things: you get speed, you get price, and you get quality, but you only pick two out of those three. I got quality, I got price. I did not get speed. And that was a frustration in working with everyone, but it took patience and it took compromise. I have a very clear thing, and you know how it is. Plastic surgeons are notorious for being, super uncompromising characters. And I learned what I am allowed to be psychotic about, and I also learned what I needed to just let go. Um, so that was a big part of the process for me. But I'll tell you, I mean, I think it goes back to from day one, I kept trying to visualize the plan I had and the experience I would have in the office, my patients would have in the office. Even, I'm subleasing to a couple of friends, and even the experience they would have in the office, and of course my staff as well. So I don't know. I think planning was a really wonderful part of building this thing out, and I wish I did more. You realize as you move in how much the pregame show translates to an effective space down the road.
So that was a little pearl you just dropped there. You're also a landlord now. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
did you lease or buy the building?
Oh, no, this is a $500 million building that we're in. I wish I could buy it. No, we're leasing. So this is, I think, an 11-story building, 500,000 square foot space. My office is 3,800 square feet in that I'm leasing from them. So my lease, again, for sort of understanding, I have a 10-year lease with two
Nice,
5-year options.
nice.
Um, and the space is way bigger than what I needed. And this was sort of a calculated decision after really combing through the Beverly Hills market. I knew every space that was available in the city. And, some were too small, some were just, everything had its faults. This space was definitely larger than what I needed and arguably a little bit more rent than I wanted to spend. Um, so I immediately built into my plan with this space the idea to sublease to some other surgeons in town. And I'll tell you, it was stressful. I mean, I didn't have my guys complete until just about the week before I moved in. So I got lucky actually. I have a good friend, Karan Deer, who's a facial plastic surgeon, who did almost the same thing, and he went without completing his sublease plan for a good year after he moved in. So, it worked out really nicely. I'm very grateful. The guys that are with me are friends and they're excellent surgeons. And I think they're an addition to the office. And another sort of interesting thing is we all do about the same thing. So I do primarily breast and body contouring, so do they. And this didn't fit into that idea or that model of, well, you're a body guy, so get a face guy to come in and you can bounce things off each other. I just feel that there's another advantage to doing it my way. Number one is you still make your contacts and you have your friends around town. So I have my referral sources. What is nice is that we all also have primarily the same requirements for materials, overhead, and supplies, and it actually makes things a little more streamlined. So Joe Hadid and I were just talking about, hey, listen, let's just use the same compression garments. Let's all be on the same page with that, so we don't have to double up on everything. And I'm trying to stock them for fillers and stuff like that. So it becomes an interesting exercise in streamlining and efficiency in running the office.
Then how does it work with staff? Are you revenue sharing? Are you
No,
staff sharing?
completely independent. So we all have our own staff, and this was also what I learned actually after working at the other offices. I find that if you share staff, it gets messy.
I was going to say, heads up, because it gets messy. You have to have your own dedicated staff people focused on you.
I agree, 100%. It's look, no one cares more about your business than you do, but
Mm.
then no one cares secondarily, maybe more
Yeah.
than your employees. They're not, it's not fair to have them work on someone else's practice. Now, there's a younger surgeon that's with me who is, he's, he's slow. He has his own coordinator. I'm for now, my receptionist is she's welcoming his patients into the office and if need be, answering his calls every now and then. But he knows that, look, I hope he gets to the point that he's busy enough to need very much his own full-time receptionist, and he will very soon. It's so much cleaner this way.
Right.
It's sloppy to share.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so who makes up your staff now? Are you the only revenue generator, or have you brought on some in?
Primarily, I am. I have a nurse injector who comes in now once a week. Unfortunately, she's busy, and honestly, I'm still trying to grow that practice for her. So for years, I did my own injectables. Once COVID hit, that all went to crap. I wasn't really interested in it anymore. I love doing it, but it's not worth my time. So we kind of let that aspect of the business slide, and now we're picking up again. So my goal is to have her on full time very soon. Pega, stay tuned. We're getting there. And that's basically her thing. So she's the only other revenue generator. I have an office manager, I have a receptionist, and I actually have two coordinators, which that was a big jump. That was my one luxury purchase for my office. And there's, I believe, a good bit of benefit to that.
Why two? That's a lot. That's a lot of
It's a
surgery.
lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot and it's expensive, but number one, we've sort of developed my marketing brings in a decent amount of volume where wading through that is challenging. Number two, if one person goes on vacation for a week, you really get slammed with regard to following up on patients and taking in new leads and things like that. So I find that it really allows you to just stay super busy. Now, that also really lights a fire under my butt to keep those referrals coming and push my marketing as hard as I can. So we do it, and again, it's a calculated decision. It has worked well for me, but listen, during leaner times, it's something that I second guess a lot.
Well, I know a lot of the surgeons have their coordinators take a vacation when they do, so they plan ahead for the year. And I don't know if you can ask people to do it like that. I mean, I think if you can and
Yeah,
they're amenable to it, go for
right.
it. But that's asking a lot.
Yeah, I push my marketing when I'm away, and they have more time to answer phones because they're dealing with me less. So it's actually it's really nice when I'm away. A lot of work gets done. So the office doesn't stop. And, again, benefit to that.
Right. What's the biggest mistake that was made through this little project? Biggest mistake that you learned a lot from, and others could learn from without making it themselves.
Actually, I'm not, fortunately, nothing huge. Everything has been relatively small. The biggest to be determined is that I built a pretty good procedure room because I do a lot of awake procedures. So I have, my background, I did a lot of awake lipo in the past. I still do a good bit right now. If anything, now I kind of really enjoy being able to jump back and forth between awake or under anesthesia based on sort of patient preferences and stuff like that. So the gamble, if you will, was a robust procedure room where, I have a micro air. When I bought the micro air, I bought a Renuvion. I bought all of the devices and the lipo equipment and stuff like that. It's a lot of money. And, the question is, will I be able to recoup it? Is it worthwhile, or did I make a stupid investment on fancy machines that I'll never recoup? So I hope that it's going to pay off, and I think it will. It's just a matter of making that space efficient. And same, the other one, at least one of the other surgeons I work with here, does a good bit of awake lipos. So I think we can make this work.
I just attended the ASPS conference in San Diego, and they did an awake deplane facelift
Oh,
conference.
amazing.
Yeah, and the room was packed, and these two doctors did a lot of it. And personally, several people were cringing because, oh boy, I mean,
Yeah.
these people are awake.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've hung around with you surgeons long enough to know you would prefer people not move,
Yeah.
not talk, not do anything. Like, let me think. And they say, and this both surgeons said, oh no, we talk them through it. And I think,
Mhm.
you're doing surgery and you're talking at the same time? Like that, it just seemed really mind-boggling. I don't know how, I mean, there were a lot of questions about it. I don't know if they sold anybody on it.
Right.
However, and as a patient, I certainly don't want to be awake for this stuff. I would rather, I'm good with IV though. Like, give me some IV sedation and I'm fine, but I would be so afraid that it's going to hurt, like I'm waiting for it to hurt or something. And they even said a couple times, okay, you're going to feel this a bit. And I thought, I don't know about that. As a patient, I don't know why you would want them squirming, just out of fear, but you don't need a general anesthesia. You don't need to be in an OR, a quad A certified OR kind of thing. So there are so many pros and cons. What are your feelings about that?
I mean, it is so controversial
Yeah,
because you will find rabid proponents and opponents on either side of it. Um, and what's interesting is I think for the most part, the traditional guys are all under anesthesia. And look, we all came from that place, and it is safe, it is effective, it is easy. And I think the ease is the most important thing. Now, on the flip side, and I think this needs to be talked about, um, the people who do more of the awake procedures, and especially awake liposuction, uh, there's an interesting history behind it because look, the way lipo happened, the dermatologist started it. They had a great idea, but a horrible execution. The plastic surgeons took over that world and took it into the operating room under controlled circumstances and were doing very well with it. And then later on, everyone else realized, holy crap, I can make a lot of money if I do these nice aesthetic procedures. I don't have to worry about being in the emergency room anymore, being an OBGYN doing deliveries. I'll just do these procedures, but they could not get accredited into a quad A OR or whatever. So they said, screw it, we'll do it awake. And I think the understanding of how to do the procedures awake has evolved. So where it is now, I think a lot more non-plastic surgeons are doing awake procedures. And because of that, the plastic surgery world looks at that with, at best, a little bit of criticism, and at worst, they just call them outright hacks.
right.
The reality is, you can do a hell of a lot of work under local anesthesia beautifully. And there is, I mean, it is an art. You have to be good at it. It is something that you have to develop over time. First few cases I did were really hard, and I learned over the years how to be good at it. There are still cases that are just rough, and that is frustrating. And they do take longer in the majority of cases. I always say, look, when awake lipo is good, it's great because you're talking to people and you're enjoying yourself. It's fun. But when awake lipo is bad, it's horrible. It's rough. It's difficult. But you get through it, So I have a very balanced approach to it. And if I feel like someone's going to have a tough time, I'm not going to offer it to them. But at
Right.
the same token, I've had some really, really, I mean, great results and a lot of fun. You learn from people, you talk to them, you enjoy yourself, and they're happy. So it's a really interesting world, and I think the community is still coming to terms with it.
Well, I know COVID, when they kicked everyone out, they kicked all the plastic surgeons out of the hospitals, and the surgeons were scrambling to find a place to do surgery and staff to do surgery with them. So,
Sure.
yeah, that whole thing was an issue. And so many of the surgeons thought, oh my God, I cannot be tied to all of these restrictions that I can't live like that. So many of them thought, no, you know what? I'm going to IV sedation. I'm going to do it in-house. I'm going to find the patients who are okay with that. I get why it happened. And frankly, I've had stuff under IV sedation. It's been fantastic. And I'm not sick afterwards. I mean, I'm not a big general anesthesia fan at all. I just
Right.
don't want to be awake for any of it.
I
So
totally get it.
yeah, so however we do that, but I love the privacy, the comfort, and the safety of an office instead of a hospital or a surgery center. So I mean, I just think the patients are going to not demanded, but I think they're going to prefer it if they have a choice.
Yeah.
Can I go to a nice, quiet, gorgeous office and have it done there? Or do I have to go to some, I don't know, some hospital that I don't want to go to or a surgical
Yeah.
center? So, I mean, do your patients have a preference? Are they like, what, awake? And then you have to talk them into it? Or how do the patients react to that?
Listen, I actually think you bring up something that, again, I talked about earlier. For me, the experience is everything.
Yeah.
And I think the really good practices in our community are often primarily good at delivering a great experience to their patients. So, again, it really starts by thinking about everything from the first point of contact until, your 2-year follow-up when you say, good luck, we'll see you later. And this goes in line with that. I when I started my practice, I worked at Elite, or now AirSculpt, and I saw that people came in, and they, number one, it killed me that they were lied to. So people didn't know that it was just liposuction, so that was bad. But there were people who came in primarily because they only wanted an awake procedure. But there were others who just were kind of suckered into saying, do this awake. Similarly, on the other side, there are people who come to my office and say, I only want to do this if you will do it awake. If you don't do it awake, if you have to do it under anesthesia, it's not worth it to me. I don't want to do it. Um, so I really feel I'm happy that I've developed the skill to do it both ways. And I read my patients and I talk to them about the risks, the benefits, the pluses and the minus. And basically what you see is, definitely there are some people who come in, I only want to do it this way, or I only want to do it that way. And then there are the ones in the middle that may come in saying, hey, I want to do this awake because I'm afraid. And you talk to them about it and you say, listen, it's safe, we can do this, we can do it under, and then they want to do it under anesthesia, or vice versa. It's a little more challenging, but again, it helps you read the patient and give them the experience that you think would best benefit them, or they would enjoy the most. So kind of long-winded, but again, I get all sorts, and I love to give them the options that will give them that best result and best experience.
Well, I found when in my book, I interview cosmetic patients to find out what they liked or didn't like about their experience. And pain will always come up, and we remember pain forever,
Yeah,
forever, ever, ever. So
yeah,
I just say to the surgeons, just I mean, make it as painless and as comfortable as humanly possible, because that's what they'll brag about then. Otherwise, they're going to be talking about that experience of being very uncomfortable, and we don't need that. You don't need that story going going out throughout the
absolutely.
community. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, listen, on that line, look into some of these, even my practice or other practices that are primarily awake based, and you don't see a lot of that. Oh my God, this was the most horrible experience of my life. When you talk a patient through something and you explain to them what's going to happen, they're much better. First of all, a lot of these patients absolutely don't remember the procedure. Okay, I'll
Nice.
give them a
Yeah.
little Demerol, a little, Xanax or something,
Yeah.
and they are happy as a clam. I had one of my social media girls actually. We did her last week, and we had the best time. She was actually on a post I just did. She doesn't remember a single thing,
Perfect.
you know? And so that was good.
Yeah.
And then there are other patients. It's funny, what you said about the guy who was doing the facelift. Um, I found that going into the procedure, I tell them, listen, this will be for the most part a good experience. There are going to be some moments that are uncomfortable. We have 3 options. I can give you more medicine, I can put more numbing medicine in, or every now and then there are going to be a couple spots we're just going to push through it for a second and you're going to be done. I feel like just that little explanation
Hmm.
helps them understand what's going to happen, and they're good with it. But again, the right thing for the right person. Honestly, talking to you, I don't think I'd want to do an awake procedure on you because you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. But why the hell should I force you through that?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Um,
I'm very clear. I'm not into pain
exactly.
at all. At all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, as always, the right thing for the right person.
Yeah. So we have to talk about marketing because you are in Beverly Hills. How many surgeons are in Beverly Hills?
A million.
God. I mean, how do you differentiate yourself? Awake is one way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Has that been a good differentiator?
It has, especially it's funny because I early in my practice that was sort of a definer, but now it's just something it still gets people in the door and
Mhm.
that's great. Um, I've thought about this a lot, obviously, and it's funny. I'm looking at his office across the street from mine right now. I when I started my practice, I met with Bob Azizadeh. I know you talked to Bob a
Yep.
little bit ago, and
Mhm.
he is arguably, I think, the smartest guy I've ever met in my life. He's a gentleman. He's lovely, and we sat there and we talked, and I said exactly this: like, I'm coming into the busiest market in the world. What am I gonna do? I said, listen. There are no poor plastic surgeons in Beverly Hills. Some do better than others, but there's always a demand. And you will always work. And he's right, but it is that question of how you differentiate yourself. Early on in the social media world, I tried to be like others. I tried to be like the Hollywood playboy or the nerdy academic guy and the this and the that. And what I started doing was just acting like me. I realized that the more I put my true self out there, I feel like the better I did because I caught people who were like-minded. And then the second they came into my office, they realized that, oh my God, I like this guy. I'm like this guy. And the same. I was like, this is great. I love this patient. We get along so well. It's so intuitive and natural. Um, and that was a really important realization for me. You can't get everyone, okay? You can't be it's funny. I was at a party on Saturday and I was chatting with my friend Robbie Yadigar, who is engaged to the co-host of a morning talk show with Ryan Seacrest.
Oh, wow.
And he was talking about my social media and I was explaining this thing of I just try to be me. And he said, look, you're right, because not everyone can be Ryan Seacrest. Ryan Seacrest is the guy who appeals to everybody for the most part. I'm not that guy. I know I'm not that guy, but I am really good to the people who end up in my practice. So that for me has been a big thing. Be yourself, be true to yourself, but also be very good at showing the world who you are. Um, and find the right way in every channel. So, the other way of differentiating is putting yourself out there on whatever social media platform most suits your personality. For
Which
me,
platforms are you using?
I'm primarily on Instagram and TikTok. I started really, I think my career started as Instagram was really getting big. And I started with friends that have done much better than me. I've started with friends who didn't do as well as me. And it seemed to be the platform that most spoke my language. Um, so over the years, I've learned how to go with the ebbs and flows of Instagram. I mean, now we're all in this world where we used to show crazy surgeries and bodies and before and afters and things like that, and Instagram doesn't allow that anymore. So, if anything, it's become much more informational and pushing us to just put out either entertaining content. I'm still not doing a TikTok dance, sorry, or just talking about the procedures in theory and stuff like that. And I mean that works for me. I can talk on social media pretty well. I feel like I missed the bus on YouTube. I didn't get onto that too well. I'm there every now and then. I never did Twitter. Or X. TikTok is another interesting one that a lot of my Instagram content goes to because it still works there. And every now and then we do sort of items specifically meant for TikTok. It's just you constantly have to read the field and see what works with you and what doesn't.
I would throw in regarding YouTube,
Hmm.
you can take all, I mean, you've done a killer job on Instagram. It's funny, when I looked at your website initially,
Hmm.
and it's all that stayed photography, I didn't get a feel for you at all, like at all. And then I
Yeah,
go to your Instagram, and it was a whole different person, a
right.
super likable, authentic person. And and I was saying to myself, well, no wonder he has 90,000 followers. He's really good. He's likable.
Mhm.
He's entertaining. He's educational. So who's ever helping you with social media is doing a killer job. Yeah. So if had I not seen that, your website never would have done it for me. So
Interesting.
congratulations. I would say, how important is social media in today's world? Do you think it is or isn't, or
I think it's supremely important. It's just supremely difficult as well. There's no answer.
totally?
There's no right way to do it. There are wrong ways to do it, but it's just so hard. It's so hard because there are a lot of ways to go at it. And again, it goes down to like really what's the right way for you? What jives best with your personality? Um, I'm not the guy that does the TikTok dance. I never will be. There are guys who do beautifully, and guys and girls do beautifully with it. And even though it may make someone cringe, it works for someone else. And it sort of gets to that. That's the beauty of social media. Again, you get to find the right person for you. There are a lot of people out there who want the dancer, the clown, and with the understanding that this is a smart person, which is shown later on, there are people who want the aloof sort of Hollywood guy who's too cool for school. There are people who want that nerdy academic guy, and I think it just, again, I'm sorry, I keep going back to this, but these platforms give people to truly, they give them the opportunity to be who they are and shine that way. So I just, that's been it for me. You learn how to do that.
Do you have a team helping you with social media? And how many hours a week are you spending on it yourself?
I've done everything, and I've tried every approach. I've used, all in-house. I've used boutique practices. I've used big firms. I've used everything. Where I am right now is, I have a primary point person who she's the creative director, if you will, of everything, and she has some subcontractors with her for editing, filming, stuff like that. And she's wonderful, and she gets me, and she gets the field. She's very she's been in this business for a long time. Um, and she is someone who has worked, we click. So she gets me, she understands me well enough to know what I'm good at and what I'm not. She still pushes me to do some stupid stuff every now and then, and I tell her no. But this has been the right thing for me. So yeah, I pay her a monthly fee. I spend with her probably, let's say, at least 30 to 60 minutes a day, just sort of back and forth, either texting or talking. I film with her every 1 or 2 weeks for a good 2 or 3 hours. I handle all my own comments. I handle all my own DMs. I'm a little obsessive with that. Um, Addicted maybe is the right word, but whatever, we all are. And that for me is the right thing. I mean, I do think that translates to, again, the experience. People get to know me. They know who I am on social media. They get who I am in the comments and in the DMs.
And does it parlay into paid procedures? And do you know that? And if so, how the heck are you tracking it?
So 100% it translates. There is zero question in my mind. And that's for me. I don't know about other practices. There are several ways of tracking it. Number one, it's interesting, just on the most immediate level, I put out a thing on labiaplasty a little while ago. Well, we never get labiaplasty inquiries, even though we do them. Suddenly, we have a lot, and that's clearly from both Instagram and TikTok. Now, the other thing is that we have a CRM that we track our patients and where they come from. So we're able to see specifically, okay, this person came from Instagram, this person came from a Google search or whatever. Now, with that, though, I also really believe that there is no one contributor, or rarely is there like one thing that a person finds and, oh, they are here just because of Instagram. Because you don't work that way. I don't work that way. If I hear about something, I'll go to Instagram, then I'll do the Google search, then I'll go to Yelp, then I'll go to this, then I'll go to that. And I think that speaks to a super important point of just being present in as many of these venues as you can, so that wherever they go, they're validating you, and they see that you're there, and they see that you're good. And it's always a challenge, because then we ask, okay, well, they came to me from Instagram, but was that their last stop? Like, did they originally find me on Yelp and then go to Google and then go to my website and then go to Instagram? That becomes a little more tricky. But again, to answer your question, no question in my mind that people will find me on Instagram and translate to paid business.
By the way, I wouldn't give up on YouTube because they have YouTube Shorts. I don't know why you have so much educational video. Why
Right.
wouldn't
Well,
you
we're putting it on there now.
repurpose it?
We
Yeah.
definitely are repurposing. And
I
it's
would
funny,
get on YouTube. It's still the lesser of them all that are all used, and people stay on YouTube a lot longer. They're psychologically a lot longer than they are on Instagram. That's going so fast. You don't
right.
even know what's going on.
You're so right. I'll tell you, my 9-year-old son came to me last year and said, "Listen, Dad, why you got to get on shorts? Why are you not putting out YouTube shorts?"
I'm with
And
him.
here's
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah.
He's already locked into YouTube and will be probably for a long time. So yes, I promise you, I will.
Yeah, listen to your son.
Yeah,
So have you any experience with influencers? And if so, has that been good, bad?
a lot. I have a lot, and it's been all of them. I started with an influencer before I knew what an influencer was. I remember back in, it must have been like 2015 or something, I was hiring a receptionist and this woman applied and I saw honestly she was completely unqualified for the job, but she put her Instagram on and at the time she had like 150,000 followers.
Oh,
She was a model, she was very attractive and very personable. We were chatting and I said, "Listen, I don't have a job for you, but do you want to try like we'll do some filler? I don't know. You post it, see what happens." And she did. And it was a disaster because it turned
oh,
out all of her followers were basically these like young boys who were looking at a hot girl and they killed her. I mean, they called her words that I cannot repeat here. And it was so bad that she had to take down the post. So
oh,
I very quickly learned you have to find the right audience. And I've still made mistakes. You're enticed by the person who, oh, I have 8 million followers or whatever, and go with me, go with me. I've done some big influencers to some effect. I have settled on the micro or macro influencers. I love the people with 25,000 to let's say 2, 3, 400,000 very engaged followers. Um, People who have a very defined whole just persona that you can see is in line with yours. I love momfluencers. I love fitness influencers. I love people who are aligned with my practice, who are clearly honest with what they do. They're people who say the good and the bad. I've had a couple of people just talk about my procedures and say, "Oh, this part was horrible." And when I see that, I'm just dying. I'm like, "Oh my God, how can you do that? How can you say that about me?" But it gives them authenticity. So they will listen to the bad, but they also say, "Oh no, overall, this was a really great experience." And she's telling the truth because she's also talking about the bad stuff. So I took off from influencers, I think from like 2018 until maybe COVID. And then I kind of hopped back on once I came to terms with it again. And now I'm super selective. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I believe in the people that I engage with. And I enjoy the people I engage with. And I look for people who I feel are honest and aligned with my work.
right. Do you have any tips for how you're able to get so many of them to approve their before and after photos? Because you're showing lots of good photos on Instagram. Any tricks to that?
I feel like it's a lot of it is because my practice is so heavily social media based that a lot of people, some understand that, I do like to put that stuff out there and they're comfortable with it. What's really weird is the ones who say, "You're going to put my pictures up, right?" Like they want to have
Right.
themselves out there and it's fun and we work with them. But listen, I also have a large percentage of my practice who absolutely does not want any images out there. I think you just have to be patient and honest. And there are moments where I've had patients who initially said no to social media, but then when you see the result and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. Um, they get excited about it. And I will every now and then, a month, 2 months, 3 months later, say, listen, I know you said no, and that's completely fine, but you look so incredible. Do you mind if I share? And more than 50% of the time, they will say, get it out there. It looks so good.
Nice.
But be patient, be honest.
And ask. That's all you can do is ask. And sometimes they say no, and then sometimes they come back and say, come to think of it, it's okay, go for it.
Exactly. But honestly, I'm also so sensitive to not being pushy. It's so gross. The idea really bothers me to say, no, 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 let me put your pictures up. Let me put your pictures up. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it that you're naked on, social media. You can never do that. If someone's uncomfortable, you have to respect that. And I tell everyone, I mean, privacy is number one in my practice, and
Yeah,
I would never violate that.
for sure. And speaking about patients, do you have any crazy patient or staff story that you'd care to share?
It's funny. I think one that it was something from the early days of my practice that it was someone who knows how to get to who we are. I hired this woman initially from a temp agency, um, to be, at the time, it was sort of, I just had one employee. She was my receptionist, she was my coordinator, or whatever. So she was really good for a while. And I don't know what was going on. I did not have her ID. She gave me a name, she gave me an email, and she was one of these people who was quirky and a little bit, you could see, kind of maybe conspiratorial, but it was fun. I was naive. And as time wore on, she became increasingly almost abusive to me, making fun of me. Um, Look, I'm Iranian in my background, and I feel like, she called it out. She's like, "You Iranians, you don't talk, you just sing. Everything is so sing-songy." And but she was saying it in a mean way.
Wow.
And the what was funny is I was starting to say, "Hey, this is not appropriate." Finally, I had a patient come in who, I did an augmentation on her, and in all candor, she was either a stripper, or she may have been a prostitute. There were a lot of signs that led to that, and once that happened, she said, "I can't work here anymore. I have to go," and she left. Um, 3, 4 years later, I started every 6 months getting Yelp reviews from this woman talking about, he is a criminal. He conspired with the FBI to put me down and to chase me and to run me out of town. And he said this about his friends and his parents and this. It was really sad because she was clearly a sick person. Um, and I think I may have caught her in a little bit of a stable place, and she, you could see, just became sick and well and sick and well, and she just would go after me on Yelp. And finally, I talked to Yelp. I mean, I showed them clearly this is insane, and they got her off. But it was a wild ride.
You just never know. Gosh, although at the first sign, as you get older, don't you find that you have a lot less tolerance for things? I know I do. The first sign, I'm usually okay. The red flag. Okay, one more red flag, we're out. We're not
Yeah,
going to do this. It
for
just
sure.
grows. It just keeps getting worse and worse.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. But listen, you also, I mean, I think for me, the scary thing is, fine, a bad Yelp review here and there. Okay. The really scary thing is that people in your office have access to very, very sensitive parts of your life. And it's really scary. I mean, I am very grateful. I truly trust and value the people in my office. They know me, they know my family. I've worked with them for years and have, I think, beautiful relationships with them. But the reality is, if someone wants to do a bad thing to a person that they work for, it's pretty easy. Um, so I don't know. Be warned. Don't hire crazy people, and or you need to put in a lot of protective layers, I think, in your life. But that's not easy.
I would say it's worth a background check nowadays. That they're like $30 or something. You just never know
Great
where
idea. Great
people
idea.
come from. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's super important.
So last question. Tell us something we don't know about you.
Oh my God. Something that I'm willing to admit. No. Look, it's funny. I think we all have our hobbies, we all have our interests. For me, something that I'm still so grateful for is that we moved into a new house in January, actually, of 2020, so right before COVID
Mm,
hit, and we rushed to get into that house. So we did the bigger remodel inside the house, but we didn't bother with the landscaping. So as COVID hit, I was sitting there walking around the house and just hating so much of what was going on. So
yeah.
I started gardening, and I mean,
Ah,
it went from massive removal projects, taking out bushes, whacking things out and everything, to very fine, delicate planning of gardens and stuff like that. And it was great because, we had 2 months in COVID that I wasn't operating, but it really gave me the opportunity to still use my hands, use my brain, use that creativity. Um, and I loved it. I mean, I really feel like it saved my life during COVID. And
ah.
now it's one of those things that it's a stress reliever, it's a source of creativity, it's a source of joy. I mean, you see this thing growing and flourishing and everything. It's one of my favorite things in life, and I value it. And I really now try to make time to garden. So
Good
that's
for you. I tried it and I didn't like being dirty and
Mhm.
sweaty. I just it's not my thing, but I always try everything. Like I just got to try
Good,
it. I don't want to say no or yes until
good.
I've experienced it. And it's just not mine, but good for you. If gardening's your thing, go for it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. Absolutely.
Oh, so well, we're going to wrap it up now. I know that your website, in case somebody wanted to get a hold of you, it's GabbayPlasticSurgery.com, and that's spelled Gabbay,
That's right.
plasticsurgery.com. Any other way
Absolutely.
to get a hold of you, perhaps from your Instagram handle?
Instagram is always easy, so it's also at Gabbay Plastic Surgery. And TikTok. Interesting story. I am the plastic surgeon at TikTok. We had a patient who worked there years
How'd you
ago.
get
She got
that?
me in early and gave me a great handle.
Nice. Has that been
Now,
helpful?
it has. I think it helps with searching. So
Yep.
organic on TikTok, I think, has been beneficial there.
Yeah. How many followers do you have on Instagram or on
On
TikTok?
TikTok, it's not much. I have like 21,000.
Nice.
We had a couple of videos that hit. One of them just went to 8 million views yesterday,
Oh
which was
my God. What was the
crazy.
topic?
It was someone who had really bad high def lipo done. And it was a challenging thing because I put the video out where I was critiquing the surgeon, but I was a little uncomfortable that it makes it sound like I was critiquing the person. And I obviously would never do that.
Okay. Oh, wow. I have to go check that out. Although I'm not on TikTok. Can I see it if I'm not on TikTok?
I have it on Instagram somewhere. I haven't pinned it, so it might be a little deeper down, but I'll try to send it to you. I'll
All
get it
right.
out.
I'll find it. All right.
Well, well, before I go, I have to share this moment
Please.
on my social. So I'm going to take a little picture showing you and my view so everyone can see what we did today.
Okay.
Very, you have to, if it didn't happen on social media, did it even happen?
Right, right. And we'll be sending you all sorts of deliverables as well, so you can put that out on all of your stuff.
I
And
love
with
it.
that, everybody, we are going to say goodbye. We appreciate you being here. If you feel so inclined, love a good review, and if you would subscribe to Beauty in the Biz, that helps us grow the audience. And then if you've got any feedback or questions for me, you can leave them on my website at catherinemaley.com. You're also entitled to a 30-minute consultation call, complimentary, if you want to talk about growing your own practice. And if you want to leave me a message on Instagram, you can DM me at Catherine Maley MBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon.
The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.